Google Drive Web is an app provided for all Google Apps users, just like Gmail or Calendar. Here's the app's icon. You can see all the applications that are part of a typical Google Apps account. So we have Gmail, Calendar, and also Drive. This is Google Drive. And I'll fire that off. So again, Google Drive is a web application that provides cloud-based storage on Google servers. Google Drive also provides some applications for creating content. So if I click on New, you can see that some of the things you can create are Google Docs, similar to Word documents, or Sheets, similar to spreadsheets. And you can store any sort of file in Google Drive without any problem. This requires a web browser and an internet connection. So this is Google Drive on the web, or Google Drive Web. Google Drive Web works just fine as it is, particularly with Google's applications. Again, Google Drive Web includes several viewers that enable it to open and display files that are not native Google applications, such as Microsoft Office files and Adobe PDFs. But it's very often preferable to open those files in their native applications. So for example, I have a couple of PDF files and a text file here. If I open up this text file just by double clicking it, here it opens up in the viewer, in Google's viewer, whereas if this was a text file on your local computer, it would typically open up in Windows Notepad. Same with this PDF, Corporate Limits. If I open up that, it opens up in Google's viewer and not Adobe Acrobat or Adobe Reader. So one way around that is to download the file. And you can right click it and choose download, and so it downloads the file from Google's storage to your local computer, and here it's downloaded it right to the desktop of this computer. And now when I double click on that PDF, it opens it up in Adobe Reader. So this method works. You can always download your files and open it up in the applications that are installed on your desktop computer, but it can be inconvenient. So to address this issue, Google has created an application called Google Drive Sync. Google Drive Sync is an application that replicates files stored in Google Drive Web with files stored in your computer's local storage. Google Drive Sync creates a special folder in the local storage of your computer. Typically, this is your user profile on Drive C for a Windows computer. This is referred to as Google Drive Desktop. Google Drive Sync keeps files stored in Google Drive Web in sync or replicated with files stored in Google Drive Desktop, and this is done on a per-user basis. To look at this graphically, Google Drive Sync is software that creates a special folder in your local computer storage and then automatically synchronizes or replicates the contents of that folder with data stored in Google Drive Web. Let's configure Google Drive Sync on this computer. Note that because Google Drive Sync works on a per-user basis, it is not typically installed on computers shared by multiple users. But if it is installed on your computer, you'll find it in the Programs menu. So let's open up the Programs menu, All Programs, and here's a folder for Google Drive. We'll open that up, and here's Google Drive. That is actually Google Drive Sync. That's what we want. So we'll launch that. Just click Get Started. And the first thing then that Drive Sync will want you to do is to sign in with your user account. Be patient. Sometimes this takes a little bit of time to get configured correctly. It's going to give you 2 or 3 different dialogues just describing what's happening, what gets installed. You can click next and next and next. Finally, you'll get to this screen. There's an option here for advanced setup. You won't need that. Everything is fine installed by default the way it is, so just click Done. What you will end up with is a new folder called Google Drive, and it's in this test user profile folder. There's also a shortcut here for launching Google Drive, so I'm going to close this and we'll just launch Google Drive by double clicking it, and there are the files that have already been synced over. And so those 3 files, if you remember, those 3 files are the same ones that were in Google Drive Web. Now let's just go back to that for a minute. I'm going to close this off. We'll launch the browser again and launch Google Drive Web. There are the 3 files. Remember, if we open up corporate limits on Google Drive Web, it opens it up in the viewer. If I'll minimize Google Drive Web and launch Google Drive Desktop. Now if we launch corporate limits file on this machine, it opens it up in Adobe Reader. So Adobe Reader is now, of course, the default application for PDF files. And likewise, if I open up this text file, it opens it up in Notepad. So that's exactly what we want. Let's see what happens now if I delete this text file. I'll just right-click it, choose Delete, and put it in the Recycle folder. If I go over to the Google Desktop, or Google Drive Web, it looks like the file is still there, but I don't think it's refreshed yet. There, it just refreshed, so it's deleted. It's synchronized. Google Drive Sync did its synchronization steps and deleted that file. So that works really, really very nice. If I create a new folder here, I'll just call it Test Folder. And I won't put anything in it. I'll just minimize this. We'll go over and look at Google Drive again. Give it just a second to synchronize. And there's the test folder. So now I'll open up the test folder, and let's put a file or 2 in there. I have some test files here. In fact, I'll just drag this whole folder full of test files right into this test folder. I'll say move it there. Okay, so that folder now contains these same 3 files that are on the outside, outermost directory, but that's okay. I'll minimize or close off Google Drive Desktop. Let's take a look at the web version again. There's the test folder, and there's the folder full of test files, and there they are. So it works very nice. If you add a file in Google Drive Web, it gets replicated to Google Drive Desktop. If you add a file to Google Drive Desktop, it gets replicated to Google Drive Web. And basically anything you do, adding, deleting files, it just works. We make extensive use of files and folders that are shared with other users. So that's one of the things that you'll want to do is synchronize at least selected folders over to your Google Drive Desktop. By default, only the stuff that's in your My Drive is synced to Google Drive Desktop. So anything that you want synced to Google Drive Desktop has to be in My Drive somewhere. It has to be as a file, it has to be in a folder somewhere. So I'm going to take a look at what's shared with me. there's one folder here that's been shared with me, and it contains a couple of files. So let me exit out of here. I'll go back to my drive. So that does not exist in my drive at this time. I want what's in shared with me, I want this shared folder to also be synchronized with Google Drive Desktop. So to make that happen, I have to move it into my drive. Now, I'm going to suggest that in order to keep things organized and understand what stuff is yours and what stuff has been shared with you, that you just make a simple folder here to keep the stuff that's shared with you organized, and so you know where it is. This is completely optional, but I think it's a good step. So just create a new folder. I suggest calling it Shared by Others. Again, your choice, but we'll create that folder Shared by Others. And now I want to place this shared folder. This folder's been shared with me by Al Christensen. I want to place that into my drive. So to do that, one way to do that is to right-click the file and click Add to My Drive, and then you can tell it which folder in my drive that you want it to be stored in. Well, I want it to be stored in the Shared by Others folder, so I'll select that and click Move. Now, note when that is done, the folder doesn't get removed from shared with me. It's still being shared with you by the other user. It doesn't get moved. It's just like a copy of the link to that folder gets placed, in this case, into shared by others. So here we have the whole folder shared by tester, and there's the data. So that data should now get synced over to your Google Drive desktop. We'll check that out. I just want to make sure that you understand that what's been shared with you by others stays there. This process just kind of takes a copy. It doesn't even take a copy of the data. It just copies a link to that data over to your My Drive. And at that point, then Google Drive Sync can sync it over to your desktop folder. So let's see if that's happened. I'll minimize Google Drive Web. We'll take a look at Google Drive Desktop. Here's the folder shared by others, and there's the folder shared with tester. And there are the files. Just keep in mind that if you're synchronizing data that's been shared by others that contains a lot of files, and some of them, like our public documents, our in-house documents, can contain many gigabytes worth of data. In order to synchronize that data over to your local computer, it will take a while. It will take hours, if not days, to accomplish that. You have to be logged on to that machine while that synchronization is occurring, because this is all on a per user basis. If you log off the computer and leave the computer running, that synchronization stops as soon as you log off of the computer. So hopefully this has been helpful. Thank you very much.